Is the slides are visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. First of all, I thank Niftam Tanjavur for giving me an opportunity to discuss about spice extracts and its business potential. Myself as working as scientist at Indian Institute of Spices Research located at Kozhikode, Kerala. And I hope participants are from very different states of the country. So maybe spice may require an introduction. So what I have kept in this, sorry, yeah. So the outline of the presentation is like this. First, we will introduce spices. What is the composition of spices? Then essential oil and oleoresin. We will just have a couple of slides on that. Then we will go to the extraction methods of this oleoresin and essential oil. Then how we can use this oleoresin in our masalas, and a little bit touching upon the natural colors from spices and the latest trends and prospect of entrepreneurship for spice extractives. That's what I am going to speak today. To introduce, spice can be defined as any plant or plant part that are used to enhance the flavor or taste of the human food. It's a spice. Generally, whenever we think of spice, what comes to our mind is that whatever we add for flavor and taste. Actually, spice is much beyond that. It is used for not only for flavor, it is used for coloring, it is used for preservation, it is used for pharmaceutical application, and nowadays, spice as nutraceutical is gaining more and more importance. Whatever it may be, any type of spices, the content, the composition of the spice, when you say the aroma and flavor, even though we use it as interchangeably, these two things are totally different. When we say aroma refers to those component of spice which is actually you sense through your nose. So those compounds are highly volatile in nature, that we call it as essential oil. The term essential oil is really confusing. There is nothing called a non-essential oil in spices. It is nothing but the oil of its essence. That's why the name came from essential oil. So essential oil refers to the aromatic part, and the rest of the part, which is not easily volatile in nature, they are called as oleoresins. And sometimes the derivative of this oil and oleoresin also will be present. So in toto, the taste or the flavor which you are experiencing from any spice is the effect of this essential oil and oleoresin. Now, if you see, this is just to familiarize you people with how it looks inside the spice. This is just a cross section of ginger, where you can see the yellow colored oil globules present in ginger. So this is separate glands or globules which is located in the sclerenchymatous tissue of this plant. So this is how it is distributed. When once you crush, once you grind, once you open up these globules, or once you heat it up, it will escape it as oils. Oleoresin will be taken by the solvents when you extract using organic solvents. So this is how actually the oleoresin and essential oil which is found inside the plant. Now coming back to the comparison of this essential oil versus oleoresin. Oleoresin, when you say oleoresin, it contains both oil and resin. That's why it is oleoresin. And essential oil, as I told, it is the essence of the plant's fragrance or the smell what we feel. And normally it is extracted through distillation. It may be steam distillation or hydro distillation. While oleoresin, being non-volatile in nature and non-soluble in water, it is extracted through using organic solvents, or nowadays supercritical fluid is also there. So the function of the spice is the sum total of aroma and taste, which is contributed by its essential oil and resin part. Now, if you see any spice for that matter, you will get a typical smell for any spice. So, for example, aromatic compound in spices, if you see cinnamaldehyde, black pepper, the characteristic smell of black pepper is given by linalool oxide and alpha terpinol. We are familiar with the piperine. That is its pungent principle. Chili, capsaicin, and terpene hydrochloride, cardamom, 1,8-cineol, and alpha terpinyl acetate, ginger, gingerol. And if you see, in case of ginger, say the fresh ginger and dry ginger are having two different tastes. So what happens is this gingerol is highly unstable. Upon dehydration, this gingerol is converted to sugar. That's why the dry ginger's taste is totally different from fresh ginger. And eugenol, we all know from clove, vanillin is very familiar. Now, whatever may be the compound, I have listed only one compound to represent one spice. Actually, it is a mixture of thousands of various volatile and non-volatile compounds in this oleoresin or extract of these spices. So, how we can extract this oil and oleoresin? That's what we will discuss in detail. Say, very simplest method for extraction of oils is hydrodistillation, steam distillation, microwave assisted extraction. So this much are for our oil extraction. When it comes to the oleoresin extraction, you can use solvent extraction and supercritical fluid extraction. Enfleurage, cohobation, and maceration are the technologies which are used especially in perfumery industry, not for our this spice industry. Coming to hydrodistillation, it is very simple technology. What you have to do is you have to simply boil the content, plant matrix, maybe spice, maybe eucalyptus, maybe anything which is containing aromatic compound which is having smell. If you boil it in a water and you collect the steam and condense it, after condensing, what will happen is oil will also condense along with that. Then the oil being immiscible in water, it will form a separate layer. Depending on the density of the oil, it may be on top of the layer, on top of the water, or it may be below. So that most of the cases oil will be less denser, so it will be on top. So by decanting the lower layer of this water, you can get the oil. But still, when you do it in a large scale, the problem is the oil will be contaminated with water or mixed with water. I will not say contaminated; it will be mixed with water. And when you do in a large distillation, unlike in a lab scale, the problem is the turbidity of the oil will also be a problem. It won't be as clear as we see. So it may require two steps. One is called a filtration step to get remove all those suspended particle from that, and also you may require a water removal step using sodium sulfate. So otherwise, there will be residual water in that. Residual water, if it is there, the quality of the oil will deteriorate very faster. So we have to make it water free whenever you do hydrodistillation. So this hydrodistillation can be done in three different ways. One is you simply dip the material inside the water and boil it. And second one, you can directly inject the water vapor into that. And third type is with water immersion and water vapor injection together. So that both way we can do. And in a way, hydrodistillation, after I told the last two is coming under the steam distillation, you can say. But the problem with this hydrodistillation is most of the time it is highly time consuming and energy consuming because you have to heat the water which is having very high heat capacity. So you need prolonged distillation. And not only that, essential oil components, sometimes it will be heat labile. Most of the aromatic compounds are heat labile. So during that, it may be evaporation loss may be there, or it may be chemical degradation can also happen. So that is the disadvantages of this steam distillation. Hydrodistillation. Coming to steam distillation, it is same as our water distillation, except the fact that your matrix from which you want to plant matrix from which you want to extract oil is not in contact with the water. Water is in a separate layer below, separate tank below, which is being heated, and the steam generated will be passing through the plant matrix, which is kept on in a wire mesh container, and the steam coming out of it will contain both water as well as the oil fraction, which because the steam can penetrate through this plant matrix. The very important point to note here is that the efficiency of extraction of essential oil using steam distillation is largely depending on the nature of the plant matrix. Say for example, if it is a very thick material, you have to crush it so that steam can penetrate through easily. Sometimes you may have to make it into small pieces. Sometimes as such also you can do some. In most of the cases, if you are extracting steam oil from leaves, you can put leaf as such. So this is how the steam distillation works. Only thing with the steam distillation and hydro distillation is the energy consumption for not only for water heating or water vapor generation, but also a very high amount of energy is required to cool the water for condensation. So the condensation should be very efficient. Otherwise, non-condensed oil molecules may escape through the other open end. So what happens is normally in industrial scale, whenever we do steam distillation, the outlet of the condenser will not be open to outside. It will be in a deeply seated within the tank where you have collected. So whatever escapes, it will be condensed during that process also. So it will have a minimum loss. So whatever picture I am drawing here is it's all our laboratory method. But if you see actually in a field condition wherever this distillation happens, the scenario will be totally different. Especially in a country form of steam distillation, what they do is they never use condensation water, a cooled water, by using a chiller. What they do is, most of the time this steam distillation unit will be located in a foothill of a big mountain, which will have a 24-hour supply of water. So that water from the top of mountain, they will be collecting into a big tank or a small of concrete well, and the condensation unit will be deeply immersed in that, and outlet of that condenser will be coming into a tank. That's how they maintain it. So basically the energy for condensation is zero in most of the plants, country plants, but in highly advanced industrial plants, they spend maximum energy for condensation. Now, as I told, the contents in the oils which are highly volatile in nature, not only volatile, but they may be heat labile. That means it may degrade with the heat. So to prevent that, such cases, say for example, if you want to extract oil from jasmine, you cannot use this steam distillation because the jasmine flavor will be lost, because that flavor molecule is highly unstable with respect to temperature. So in that you have to do cold extraction. Cold extraction, you might have heard about cryogenic grinding, say where the grinding of the material happens at a very low temperature of minus 186 degrees Celsius. So that is for grinding. But for extraction, what we do is the cold pressing is a method where the oil is expelled in an expeller by pressing at a very low temperature and pressure. So in vacuum, it will be very low pressure. I will not say vacuum, it will be very low pressure and low temperature. If you press it in an expeller, what you can get is the oil will be extruded out. So the two factors are here. One is the pressing by the hydraulic press, and also the pressure, the low pressure, which will help the oil to ooze out from the matrix. That is more important here. So this even then the oil will be trapped within the material. To get maximum oil, what we do is we do a centrifugation for maximum extraction of the oil, for maximum release of the oil, and also for purification and separation from the matrix. So that is what most of the time it will be a continuous centrifugation process. Here, what is important is, since this compound is thermolabile and it will not, escape the plant matrix very easily, a small crushing or scrubbing may require for better efficiency. The best example is, extraction of vanillin and oil from seed spice are all extracted using cold extraction. The advantages of this method is whatever oil we get here, it will be 100% ditto the composition of what we have in the plant matrix. If you use steam distillation, if you use hydro distillation, the composition what was present in the plant will not be there what is present in the oil extracted, because due to temperature, very high temperature, there will be some change in the chemicals, composition of the oil. And another thing is that since we are not using any water or any other organic solvent for this extraction, there is not a further step for removal of the solvent. So that what in another word, what we get is a very 100% pure oil you can get if you go for cold extraction. Now coming to microwave assisted hydrodistillation. It is nothing but the principle is same, hydrodistillation, but the heating of water is using microwave. What makes microwave more efficient? Because otherwise in using hydrodistillation you may need 6 hours, 3 to 6 hours depending on the nature of our material. But in case of microwave assisted hydrodistillation, the same principle is same. You have to boil the water and get it. But the boiling principle, how the heat is being generated in the water, makes it more efficient, because the microwaves will allow the water molecule to vibrate, and that frictional energy created between the vibration of the molecule will heat up the water, and it will penetrate into the plant matrix, and it will allow the oils to escape. So in that way, this microwave assisted hydrodistillation is very much efficient, and not only with the recovery but also with the time taken. It requires from a range of 10 minutes to 60 minutes. That's a range of the time required for this uh, microwave assisted hydrodistillation. Now coming to the solvent extraction. So far we were discussing about the extraction of essential oil from the spices. Now coming to the solvent extraction. Solvent extraction is nothing but it's a liquid extraction or partition. In a very older terminology, it's a partitioning principle. Basically, the solubility of the oleoresin in spice in a specific solvent, organic solvent, because it is not soluble in water because of its non-polar nature. So we have to have organic solvent. Sometimes you have to have partially organic, partially hydrophobic or partially non-polar solvents, so that you will not miss any water soluble component from that. So here the idea is you have to grind or powder the material, not that much coarse. I will come to that why it should not be powdered finely, because there are a lot of factors affecting it. So when you powder it and you mix it with the solvent, and that solvent mixing it can be in different form, continuous extraction method is there, batch wise extraction method is there. We will be discussing later. So in principle, what we do is we mix the material with the solvent, and you agitate it, or you allow the solvent to flow through it, or you allow the solvent to recycle it. There are different methods, but the fact is it will be treated to be wet with the solvents, and the solvent will penetrate through the inner wall material, inside the cell wall, everything, and it will extract the oleoresin into that, and being the oleoresin soluble in the solvent. And once it is mixed, what we will do next is we have to drain out the plant matrix, which is devoid practically, or there is no much extractable oleoresin from that. That will be filtered out, and whatever left is containing the solvent having our oleoresin. But solvent being highly carcinogenic in nature, we cannot consume it. What we have to do is we have to get the solvent free out of this matrix by different methods that will come. So in general, once you prepare the raw material by powdering or grinding, you will expose the material to solvent, and you separate the micella, that is the plant matrix devoid of the oleoresin, and finally whatever we get is solvent plus oleoresin. From that you have to remove the solvent. We will come one by one. When you come to the preparation of raw material, this is very important when you go for solvent extraction, because all the spices, say for example underground spices like rhizomatous spices like ginger and turmeric, you are harvesting from underground. You have to clean it pakka perfect, because while you extract from using solvent, if at all any soil particle is there, it will extract whatever soluble from soil also. So we have to be doubly sure that it should be cleaned properly. And once you clean it, then you have to dry it and you have to grind it. While grinding, why we are doing it is to ensure good solvent penetration. Smaller the particle size, greater number of ruptured cells. That is the simple principle. But if it is too fine particle, what is the problem is the percolation rate of the solvent into the matrix will be very low. Say for example, there are very small seeded spices like ajwain, cumin and all. For them to extract the oleoresin, even powdering is not required because it's small by itself. So if you mix it with solvent and agitate it or pass through that, this one, it will extract the oleoresin automatically. So the particle size, if it is very fine, the percolation of the solvent will be very slow, and it will be very difficult in recovering the micelle after that, and also solvent from the spent material. So it should not be too fine. It should not be too coarse also. So too coarse means the exposed surface area will be very less. So you have to have a maximum surface area exposed without being too fine to not to allow the percolation of the solvent. That's very important. Now, once you prepare the raw material, you have to expose that material to solvent. This have, in principle, then it has got three phases. One is addition of solvent to ensure even wetting of the dry mass, and second one, you have to allow the absorption of the solvent and equilibrium between the solute and solvent, because one in the initial phase solvent is free from the oleoresin. It will start taking the oleoresin, but after some time it will reach at an equilibrium between the solute, when I say it is oleoresin, and solvent is our organic solvent. Then after equilibrium, whatever solute, whatever time you keep, you won't get extra solute to come to your solvent. Then what you have to do is you have to replace with uh, continuously with fresh solvent. Practically what people are doing is, in the industry, if you go, what they do is they do, there are 2-3 different ways. First one is, you start agitating in a tank using a particular amount, 1:2 or 2:3 ratio of the solvent to uh, matrix ratio. Then after some time, you completely drain out and add fresh. So that is in case of batch wise, but that is least preferred, and it is highly cumbersome and it consumes more solvent. But what most of the factory does is, they used to keep on pump the used solvents again and again back to this tank in a series of continuous manner, that is known as continuous batch system, continuous system, where there will be less replacement of fresh solvent, because fresh solvent is required when you are keeping the same solvent there for a long time. But if you change the same solvent back and forth, the replacement of the fresh solvent, that contribution or the concentration of the fresh solvent added will be very less. What is important here is solvent to solute ratio. Depending on the matrix that has been fixed, most of the cases it will be 2:1 or 3:2. This is the most important ratio. There will be some variations. And as I told, design of the extractor will be current flow, counter current flow, continuous, or it can be a batch system, and direction of flow. So these are all the factors which influence the extraction. Now, once the solvent contains your oleoresin, how to separate? Say the separation is done at a very low temperature to avoid loss and damage, and separation of solvent is done by vacuum. When we say vacuum, it is not complete vacuum. It is actually done in 3 different stages. First, it has to be get rid of all the unspent material, that is the spice matrix, which is devoid of oleoresin now. That is firstly done by filtration, then done by a centrifugation. That is the procedure. But the most toughest part is the removal of the solvent. According to the international standard, maximum permissible limit of residual solvent in oil or oleoresin, whatever it may be, it is 10 ppm, parts per million. So it has to be desolventized to a greater extent. That means it should have very least amount of this uh, solvent. Now, how this solvent removal happens? First is by rising film or falling film or Calandria type evaporator. There is a evaporator where the solvent containing oleoresin is put into a tank where a moderately high temperature is provided, well below its boiling point, but still and it will be continuously agitated. So agitation coupled with a mediocre temperature, high temperature, will result in loss of solvents. And after that, around 90 to 95% solvent will be removed. But even then, you are not satisfied because 2% means it is 20,000 ppm of solvent is there. So then it will be shifted to a vacuum condition, because under vacuum, if you agitate it, what will happen is it will suck all the volatile, easily volatile our solvent. Now, even then, because whatever left out is our oleoresin is very much sticky, tacky substance. It is not easy to handle. So it will be trapped within that sticky, tacky material. So what industry do is they sparge with the nitrogen from below, so that that nitrogen will create porous space in the matrix, and it will help the solvent to escape from the matrix, that sticky or viscous material of this oleoresin. Now, once you extract, as I told, it is a very thicky, tacky paste material. It is not even easy to pour from one bottle to another bottle. So the direct incorporation of this oleoresin is very tough. So what normally do is we admix with vegetable oil or permitted diluent like propylene glycol or polysorbate, depending on the usage. Say for example, this oleoresin can be used under two different contexts. One is under an aqueous environment, as next one is non-aqueous environment. Aqueous environment means, for example, if you are using this oleoresin for making masala for our cooking, then it has to be diluted with a diluent which contain an emulsifier, because this oleoresin is not soluble in water. But if you want to do to fortify a fatty matrix which contain oils, then no need of any other diluent. You can simply add to that oil, vegetable oil, whatever it is, then you can do it, use it for your application. So that is very important, which one to be used, what is your application, what is your future application of this oleoresin. Depending on that, this oleoresin will be diluted, then only it is used. When I say oleoresin, it is the most concentrated form of spice. Say, instead of 1 ton of black pepper, raw black pepper, you can have only 160 liters of this oleoresin. So very least amount of space is required. And another advantage of oleoresin, why this oleoresin industry is very important and earning money, basically because this oleoresin is the most preferred form of export form of spices, especially by Europeans and Americans. If you see, there are a lot of legal hurdles to be bypassed or surpassed for every commodity while we go for export. First one is its quality. Quality with respect to pesticides residue, quality with respect to aflatoxin, quality with respect to any other contaminations. That has to be passed. Of course, we do take care when we export all these materials. But when you are exporting a raw material, it has to pass through quarantine measures. Quarantine measures means whenever you are exporting from India to Europe, they will make doubly sure that there is no disease, there is no pathogen, there is no microbe being transported from Asian continent to European continent. That will be a threat for their continent otherwise. So 15 to 20 days, it has to be kept under quarantine here. There is a cost associated with that. That has to be borne by the importer or exporter. Then quarantine will not end here. It will reach the destination country. There also the quarantine will be required. But if you see oleoresin, if you extract oleoresin from spices and it is being exported to any other country, quarantine measures are zero, because this is not a live material or not a biological material per se. It's an extract of that biological material, and it is devoid of moisture, 0% moisture, you can say practically. So since there is no moisture, its shelf life is, you can store pure oleoresin for centuries without any preservatives. Simply you have to keep in good container or jar, that's all, or polyethylene bags. So you can preserve this for a long time. Space required is very less, And most importantly, whatever spices we use in our daily life, say for example, when we cook, we use dalchini or this uh, cinnamon bark, for example, as bark without powdering in biryani, in everything we add. But after, while consuming biryani, what we do, we just take it out and keep it away. During the cooking process, only 20 to 40% of the essence is being extracted into the real food matrix. The rest is still within that bark. So you are wasting that 60% oleoresin simply by putting it away. But if you extract it, the extraction efficiency is as close as 95 to 100%. So you are getting entire thing, and whenever you put a drop of it, the entire drop will be mixed in your food matrix. So it is 100% utility. So this way of extracting oleoresin and essential oil from spice is the best way to minimize the post-harvest loss of the our spices. Normally, when we talk about post-harvest loss minimization, we never think about in this aspect. But in case of spices, this is very important. Otherwise, whenever we think about post-harvest losses, there are losses due to aflatoxin, ochratoxin, the damage, insect damage, and everything becomes. But the post-harvest loss actually, which is unaccounted, is the wastage of unextracted oleoresin or the essence of the spice while cooking when we use raw material. So that's the advantages of oleoresin. So I will just read it out. The benefits of oleoresin I have already discussed. Consistency, it allows product standardization. That means in whatever form we want, it can be standardized or customized for you. Say for example, if you see the big brands like McDonald's, KFC, everyone, their say KFC chicken, for example, if you taste from any city, any part of the world, it tastes the same. Of course, they have different variants for China, they have different variants for the Middle East, they have different variants for the US. Even then, if you just ignore it, otherwise the taste is same. How can they maintain that taste when it is being cooked or prepared by different thousands of chefs? So the secret is they never use spices as powder for their masala making. They use oleoresin and oil in a particular concentration. Say when we say concentration, we think about 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoon of powder. No, it is not like that. It is not even ml or milliliter or microliter of your oleoresin. What they do is they have standardized parts per million amount of curcumin, piperin, cinnamaldehyde, 1,8-cineol present in their recipe, and they add oleoresins of respective respective spices to make that ppm level of to get that ppm level of their active ingredients. That's why they are able to maintain the brand identity or maintain the taste or flavor for their product. So that is very important, the consistency. The next is, as I told, flavor release is instant and 100%. You are getting a clean product which is free from any physical impurities and extraneous matter. There is no pathogen or microbial contaminants because it is free from moisture. Shelf life is longer shelf life because the only degradation it can happen is oxidative degradation or loss of flavor if you don't keep it in a tight container. So this oxidative degradation is the only challenge when you do this, store this our oleoresin. So there are methods for keeping away from this antioxidants which is added in this oleoresin mix. That is another thing. We are not going for that. Then less warehouse space. As I told, instead of 1 ton kg, you need 160 liters. So that much less space when you think about big containers being exported in shipments from Cochin to Europe, New Zealand, Australia, and all. So there you require very less space and dispersion. As I told, it can be dispersed in on any appropriate carrier, be it aqueous, non-aqueous, any material you can do. You can control the release of the flavor. Say there are some food items which are kept in open air for a longer duration before being used. So then you should not lose the flavor and aroma. In such cases, if you add simple flavor spices, it will lose. But instead, if you can make different formulation using this oleoresin, where controlled release is possible using hydrogels, micro encapsulation, there are different technologies for that. You can release the control and economy is no match with a raw spice. As I told, it is 100% functionality versus 20 to 40% functionality with raw spice. And what most important factor for industry is the seasonal price fluctuation of these spices. So what industry does is, whenever the price is low, they purchase things in bulk quantity and they extract oleoresins out of it. And you can sell it whenever the price is high. No problem is there. So this is another advantage of, from an industry perspective, the seasonal price fluctuation can also be avoided. Even then, as I told, it is having a lot of advantages. It has got disadvantages also, but these are all very minor disadvantages. Which solvent you are using, that's very important. Say, depending on the solvent you use, the flavor profile will change because the solubility of various components, n number of components present in the oleoresin will vary. So flavor profile depend largely on the solvent used. Now, the difficulty in handling the concentrated form, that's a very simple thing. If you use proper diluent, that can be used. But the problem is, when we extract with the solvent, we think that only oleoresins will come to the solvent. No, it's not that. It will be containing tannins and other compounds which are otherwise not part of the oleoresin. So these tannins present will create an off odor or off taste to the oleoresins extracted. So it has to be treated separately in such cases. Then when you compare this solvent extraction, you require a time range of 5 to 7 hours per batch and high solvent consumption. Solvent consumption, when I say, it is environment hazard. The solvents are environmental hazard. Even though every process happens in a highly concealed environment, 4 to 10% soy, the solvent is being evaporated as a loss during the process. So it is actually not an environment friendly method. And most important problem faced by the industry is low reproducibility. Low reproducibility means today the recovery of oleoresin from a lot is 60%. Tomorrow it may be 40%. Tomorrow, day after, it will be 75%. So that reproducibility issue is always there. A very slight minute difference in the course, the powder size what we make is the major important factor to have a reproducible result. So what the industry does, they will first do a trial run in their pilot plant by using different particle size, by using different solvent ratio, everything. Finally, they will optimize it, and that optimized condition will be used in their regular big, 20,000 liter, 10,000 liter capacity tanks. So that's how it happens. Even though I told, the oleoresin and essential oil extraction separately, but what actually industry does is, what they do is, they take spice, they grind it, and first it will be subjected to steam distillation, and you will get oil after steam distillation, and whatever left out spice is de-oiled spice. This de-oiled spice is the raw material for the solvent extraction, and from solvent extraction you get the resin. Now you have oil and resin separately. That means smell and taste, flavor and aroma are in two different bottles right now. Now, depending on your requirement, the company's requirement, what you can do is, you can have a extract of black pepper having high black pepper aroma and less pungency, or vice versa, having high pungency and less aroma. If you add, you can manipulate how much oleoresin to add, or resin to add, and how much oil to add. So depending on that, you can blend and then you homogenize it. So this is the beauty of separate two-step, extraction. That is, one is, first you extract oil, then from the same material you extract resin. The advantage here is, if you separate oil from resin, the shelf life of resin is very high, because oil shows the rancidity issues, while resin shows least rancidity issues, or the oxidative degradation is less for resin. So you can keep this resin for a very long time if you de-oiled resin is used. the moment you require a company order comes, you can mix this oil and resin in the desired proportion to get their desired parts per million concentration of all the constituents what they want. It can be supplied to them. So that's a beauty of this. And if you will be surprised to know, India and a small city called Cochin handles 80% of the world business of this oleoresin and essential oil industry. So we have majorly three companies like Synthite, Plant Lipids, and Kankar. They are dominating in this industry and they are catering to the global demand. Even though it is based in Kochi, they have plant in China, they have plant in Vietnam, everywhere they have established their plant, but still it's operated from Kochi. So that's how the business, the volume of the business. And India uh, is having still an upper edge in this business because we are the one first to introduce this two-stage process of extraction. Earlier, the material used for steam distillation was not used for resin extraction. It was going for the boiler for as a fuel. But now we have come up with a two-stage extraction that revolutionized the industry. And now, since we are the pioneer in that, we are having that advantage. Now, it's also a method of extraction. I will not touch in detail. Cohabitation. This is nothing but a repeated distillation of the same matter using the same liquid drawn again and again. And finally, what you will have is the fluid or the solvent comes out will be containing the oleoresin. This is a special method for extracting perfumes or volatile perfumes from floral parts. Enfleurage. It's a very age-old method. Very age-old means it has been developed in 19th century. What this method essentially does is the fat which is solidifying at room temperature is used to capture the fragrance or perfumes. So it can be done either as cold enfleurage or hot enfleurage. So this cold enfleurage, you can see in this image, there will be a frame which is having a mesh. That mesh is very fine mesh. And what we will do is between two frames, we will have a coat of very flat coat of a fat. And in that you will spread these floral parts. This is basically for taking perfumes from floral parts or the perfumes which are thermolabile or the perfumes which are otherwise difficult to extract using steam distillation. So then like this one over the other you will keep and you will press it. While pressing, what happens is your plant part scent is allowed to diffuse into the fat and it takes 3 to 4 days actually. And after 3 to 4 days, you take out the material. The fat will be, pressed in a cold temperature and the liquid which is oozed out will be your pure perfume. That's how it is normally taken. And in hot enfleurage, only difference is instead of being a solid fat, we are using a little bit hot fat. Hot fat means it is liquid bit solid fat is heated and this matrix is stirred in that. The efficiency of hot enfleurage is high, but nonetheless, some perfumes can only be harvested using cold enfleurage because if you go for hot enfleurage, the material will be damaged or the scent will be gone. Now, it's a variant of microwave assisted extraction without solvents. So there won't be solvents, only the water molecule in the plant matrix will be used for the extraction. So this is having high efficiency with respect to time taken. Time is very less, and also some commodities are very much suitable like ajwain, cumin and star anise are almost done using this solvent free microwave assisted extraction. Simply the same as solvent microwave assisted extraction where we have added water. Instead of water, we will add nothing, only plant matrix, and it is subjected to microwave where the water molecule, the moisture content within the matrix itself acts as the reason for boiling and pushing the oil to outside. Now last method, say solvent extraction we have told for our oleoresin, but solvent extraction even though whatever advantages it had, but it is highly environment, a hazard in nature. So To avoid that, a new concept called supercritical fluid extraction has come. So before we go to supercritical fluid extraction, we should understand what is a supercritical fluid. So a critical point, when we define a critical point, it is the set of conditions of temperature and pressure under which a liquid and its vapor become identical. In other words, any fluid or any material under a temperature and pressure above its critical point will behave both like a liquid and as a gas. So most of the time we say the state of matter, either it can be gas, liquid or solid or plasma, a fourth stage. But this will be behaving like both like a liquid and vapor or gas. What is the advantage of being behaving both like a liquid and vapor? So gas means it can penetrate through any matrix. So the penetrability of gas is very high compared to liquid. But not only penetration is required, after penetration it has to diffuse or it has to extract it, or it has to pull out the resinous material within the plant matrix. For that you need a property of liquid. So that's advantage of supercritical fluid. Efficiency of extraction is very high, and separating oleoresin from spices using SCF, supercritical fluid extraction, has nowadays become very much popular, especially the essential oil and oleoresin extracted using this is having high quality. High quality means it will have pharmaceutical grade quality. So that's the advantage of it. Normally, two types of supercritical fluids are used. Either a single material like water or CO2 can be used. Sometimes co-solvents are required, depending on the selectivity you are looking for during extraction. So ethanol methanol combination, ethanol acetyl ethyl acetate combination, anything can be used. If you see carbon dioxide as a gas, that is the most commonly used supercritical fluid. We know carbon dioxide is non-toxic, it is non-flammable, it has no odor, it has no taste, it is inert, and at the same time it is inexpensive. And more importantly, if you see this table, the critical point, the temperature and pressure at which the critical point is there for carbon dioxide, it is, you can see critical temperature is 304 Kelvin. 304 Kelvin means it is hardly 27 degrees Celsius. And critical pressure is 7.38 millipascal, that is 72 atmosphere. Only high pressure has to be there, but temperature is very low. That's the beauty of this. When temperature is low and pressure is high, this is the most ideal condition for our chemical components of spices to be stable. So most of the common material used is carbon dioxide as a supercritical fluid. Excuse me. Hello. Yeah. ഞാൻ ഒരു ക്ലാസ്സിലാണ്, ഞാൻ കുറച്ച്. So carbon dioxide is the most commonly used supercritical fluid. There are a lot of other solvents. You can see their temperature also and pressure also. But considering the availability, considering the toxic nature, considering their economy, most commonly used is carbon dioxide. So why we use supercritical fluid? As I told, it combines the property of gases and liquids, which will increase the efficiency of extraction. And it can interact with the solute, that is our resin or oleoresin, which are difficult otherwise or even impossible to achieve it in conventional solvents. And another advantage of supercritical fluid is the density of the supercritical fluid varies with respect to temperature and pressure. If you increase pressure or if you increase temperature, the density of this supercritical fluid varies. The density of the supercritical fluid has an influence on the solubility of the oleoresin. Say for example, curcumin is a major content. 60 to 80% of the turmeric oleoresin is containing curcumin. So normally what people do is they extract oleoresin of turmeric. Then from that oleoresin, curcumin is separated and purified. So there is a different protocol for that. Now, instead of that, if you can manipulate the density of the liquid while extracting oleoresin from turmeric, the solubility of curcumin can be manipulated. Or in another word, curcumin enriched oleoresin can be taken out. So that's advantage of this supercritical fluid. And most importantly, it is highly environment friendly. That means once you extract this solvent into this supercritical fluid, it's a fluid. To see, it's a liquid. Now, like solvent extraction, you have to remove the solvent. Here also you have to remove the solvent. Here removal of solvent is very easy. You just open the pressure valve so that the carbon dioxide gas will be escaping from that. Then whatever left out is without having any carbon dioxide, even a trace of carbon dioxide won't be there. And also the purest of the pure form of your, that's why I told it's a pharmaceutical grade material you will get once you use supercritical fluid. So this is the general drawing of a supercritical fluid extraction. Supercritical fluid extraction process, you can see there will be a carbon dioxide supply and it will be compressed by using a pump, and it will be subjected to corrected pressure in a column where the matrix is filled, and once it comes out, it will be used for collecting our extracting our purification of our oleoresin by releasing the vent. In modern methods, in modern industry, the same carbon dioxide which is released being recycled back to this, and this carbon dioxide we have taken from atmosphere, it is going back to atmosphere. So it is actually the carbon credit is zero with respect to this, system. So that is how this is done. So as I told, it's environment friendly. It's a very fast process, maximum 1 hour it takes. Purity is unparalleled. It has got almost 100% purity, and recovery of analyte is simply by releasing the pressure. And as I told, there is an option for selective extraction of active ingredient by manipulating the density of the liquid. That is another advantage. Now, once you get the oleoresin, how can we incorporate in our daily masalas? So that is also very important aspect to be known. Why this oleoresin is now, even though the oleoresin usage in our spice industry is very minimal. Of course, it is there, but nobody discloses it. But it is there. Say, for example, in hing means our saffetada. Most of the industry, what they use is they take the hing oleoresin, hing oil, and they coat with in the last step once they make powder, so that the smell and aroma will be there very much. Otherwise, it is very tough to maintain it. So that is one case. Another case is we will come to that for an example of fortification and substitution, how it is done. So these masalas are used in 3 ways. One is addition, another is fortification, and third one is substitution. Addition is to add those spices in masala blend which otherwise is not convenient, that we will see. Fortification is to enhance the flavor within the matrix, that example also we will see. Substitution is to replace the spice with oleoresin and replenish with the extenders. So we will see these examples wise. So if you see substitution, suppose there is a masala mix like this, which contains pepper, clove, cardamom, ginger, cinnamon, red chili, coriander. All are having different, adds up to 100 kg. So this is a, to make 100 kg masala mix, we need all this. But if you see out of all this, cardamom, except cardamom, everything can be ground very easily. But cardamom, when you grind, which along with its capsule, what happens is it will have, being highly fibrous in nature, it won't be a proper powder. So this cardamom, addition of cardamom will give an unpleasant feeling to the consumer that it has not been properly processed. So we want to replace this cardamom, 5 kg cardamom, with equivalent cardamom oleoresin. So what we do is equivalent 5 kg cardamom oleoresin can be replaced by 100 to 200 gram of our oleoresin. So 95 kg of the other powder plus 100 gram of cardamom, but we have to keep the percentage right. Otherwise, the total proportion and the flavor of the masala profile, everything will change. So you have to make it 100. So the whatever left out weight, you add some extenders. Extenders are, in other words, it has no taste, no flavor, no aroma, but at the same time, it should be a biological material which has no harm to a human being for consumption. For example, walnut husk, pistachio husk, everything, if you powder it finely and add it, there is no harm in that. So which has no taste, which has no flavor, which has nothing, as a from with respect to the taste content. So such materials are normally used as extenders. So now the final mix is masala mix, original masala mix 95 kg, cardamom oleoresin 100 gram, and extender 4.9 kg. You mix it properly well, and whatever you will get is the same as your masala mix. So this is how you can substitute using oleoresin. Another one is fortification. Say this you might have seen in your supermarkets where chicken masalas different variants will be available. Pepper flavored chicken masala, gingery chicken masala, garlic flavored chicken masala. We can see in different companies packets. So how it is made? The base chicken masala is as a powder. To that they add pepper oleoresin to make it peppery flavored chicken masala, or ginger oleoresin to gingery flavored chicken masala, or garlic oleoresin to garlic flavored chicken masala. So this is how the use of oleoresin in Indian industry happens. But I will tell you, we are the largest producer, we are the largest consumer, we are the largest exporter, we are the largest importer of spices in the whole world. Even then, the domestic consumption of spices still depends on raw spices as well as powdered spices. We never use oleoresin. Of course, we are using a very minute quantity of oleoresin in fortified masalas like it's peppery flavored, ginger flavored, and garlic flavored. And if you go to some very big 5-star, 7-star hotels, there also oleoresins are being used for cooking. Otherwise, normally we Indians are using depending still on powdered masalas because we still believe that is the best. Now, this is just to give you an outline of how best we can utilize one spice. This I have taken as an example for turmeric. What is the prospect of turmeric for extraction and other thing? If you see turmeric plant, what are all the things we can get from that? You can use this turmeric as fresh rhizome, or it can be dried to get dry rhizome, or even the waste part, the upper part, the dry leaf, that also can be taken from the turmeric. Now, coming to fresh rhizome, this fresh rhizome, you can take turmeric juice, extract turmeric juice. It can be, there are hundreds of recipes you can make out of this turmeric juice. You can make even turmeric spray dried powder using that, or freeze dried powder from that. And after extracting fresh rhizome turmeric juice, the left out material, the turmeric spent, is actually a good source of carbohydrate, fiber, peptides, and also curcumin. Of course, curcumin being water insoluble, majority of the curcumin is still in turmeric spent. Now coming to dry rhizome, the dry rhizome we all know it can be used as powder, but we can extract oleoresin, we can extract essential oil. In a similar fashion, essential oil can be extracted from the dry leaf also. So all this can be a primary level processing of turmeric, I would say. Coming to the secondary processing of turmeric oleoresin. So from this, you are getting oleoresin, essential oil, and turmeric juice. So how individually this can be treated? Secondary processing of turmeric oleoresin. This oleoresin can be used for extracting food color. It can be used for extracting curcumin or curcuminoids. It can be used for making liquid spice blends, and for pharmaceutical industry, pure curcumin extraction is also done from oleoresin by crystallization. And these curcuminoids, if you see, curcuminoids, what I meant to say is, curcumin and curcuminoids are two distinct things. When I say curcuminoid, it contains curcumin, dimethoxycurcumin, bis-dimethoxycurcumin. So you should not be confused when you read curcuminoids and curcumin separately. Curcuminoid is a group of compounds which is containing curcumin, dimethoxycurcumin, and bis-dimethoxycurcumin. So these curcuminoids can be used for biological staining. It can be used for cosmetic purpose. It can be used for nutraceuticals, and this curcumin is highly finding application in therapeutics. So this is another level of processing with respect to oleoresin. Now, what can you do with essential oil? Essential oil primarily is done for cosmetics, aromatherapy, and isolation of bioactive compounds. And a large quantity of essential oil from leaf, dry leaf, is going to non-conventional applications like agriculture for making, pesticides, organic pesticides, everything it is being used. Now, Isolation of bioactive compounds can be done from oleoresin also. It can be done for specialty therapeutics because out of the thousands of different compounds present in essential oil and oleoresin, if you are purifying one simple compound which is having a particular anti-cancerous activity or anti-inflammatory activity or anti-wound healing property, so that can be used for that special therapeutic application. And in aromatherapy, this can be used for fragrance industry, or it can be nowadays, mood enhancers. There are pillow sprays, curtain sprays, room fresheners, car fresheners, which can change your mood, which can improve your, mental, reduce your mental stress. Everything is coming under aromatherapy. So for such things also, spice essential oils are highly used. Now coming to the turmeric spent, which we obtain after extracting the juice. It's a very good source of dietary fiber. It contains around 60 to 80% starch. It contains peptide, which is having antimicrobial activities. So this dietary fiber is a good fortification material for feed, especially for poultry and cattle feed. And starch can be used for making nutraceuticals, and it can be used for blending with the liquid spices for getting a thick this consistency. So far, we were discussing about only two components, that is essential oil and oleoresin. But there is a separate other component which is less explored in many cases, that is natural colors from spices. Of course, red and yellow color is being highly explored because red color you get from chili, capsaicin and capsorubin are the components responsible for the color. Yellow color, it is very common from turmeric. And I will tell you the most of the color, the natural colors are by itself are not that much stable, and also if at all stable, it is highly pH sensitive. pH sensitive, if you keep the same color, say for example purple color, very beautiful purple color you can get from kokum. Kokum is nothing but capsicum indica. Garcinia indica. Garcinia indica, Garcinia you may be knowing the Malabar tamarind. Garcinia indica is the kokum. So the rind of the fruit is used for extracting this anthocyanin pigments. So this anthocyanin pigment is having a very bright purple color, very attractive color. It can be used for fortifying with beverages. And as I told, it is being pH sensitive. If you can manipulate the pH of your food item or beverages, you can manipulate the color also. Say it ranges from deep red to deep bluish purple color, depending on the pH from 0 to 14. So that's the beauty of these colors. So you can manipulate, and in fact, as I told, this essential oil and oleoresin industry to begin with is not a good idea in India at the moment, because you have to depend only on the export market, and in export market there is a very big stringent quality control measures coupled with competition and players like big giants like Synthetics, lipids, Kaplan lipids, and Kangar is there. So you have to compete with them for your market. So it's very tough to manage that. But the color component from this, it is having still wide application even in India for textile dyeing, for food grade dyeing and all. So that can be explored for making a business from these spices. Now coming to the prospect of this entrepreneurship in spice sector using these extractives, what are all the things? What are all the things you should? As I told, oil and oleoresin industry is still completely export oriented. When we say export oriented, depending on the country to which you are being exported, it is highly varying their standards. Say for example European Union. European Union's standard is very stringent. They don't allow ethylene oxide in our spices. They don't allow even a single insect in our spices. So their condition is totally different. So depending on the country of destination, you have to make your rise your product quality standards. So that is a very big challenge for industry, because industry may be doing it right, but at the grassroots level, farmers may be doing mistakes. Say especially with respect to pesticides. Say pesticides, when we spray, definitely it goes to your not only to your surroundings or to your environment, but also go to your plant parts. because they are, most of the pesticides are systemic in nature. It will be absorbed by the plant also. So it will be remaining there in your turmeric, cardamom, whatever plant produce you take from that plants. So these pesticides will not be degrading as fast as you think. So you have to spray only as per the recommendation. That is very important. But farmers don't follow the package of practices which we suggest or which we advocate. Due to that, the pesticide concentration in the final product become very high. And not only that, when you extract using solvents, you are selectively extracting the pesticide material also from that. In another word, your biomagnification process is also happening during extraction. To counteract this, to solve this issue, there are specific treatment given in the industry to get rid of common pesticides by passing through different columns, which are specifically absorbing your spice specific pesticides. So that's how industry is managing. Otherwise, they cannot guarantee that farmers are not using pesticides. It's very tough to say that they are growing it completely organic. And growing completely organic is also not possible in a commercial scale, in a large scale. So that's a different story. So I will not say that pesticides should not be used. It should be used judiciously in such a manner that, say for example, pesticides, all pesticides are having different half-life. Half-life means the time taken to degrade a chemical to half of its concentration. So different chemical have different half-life. Some may be degrading fast, 2 to 7 days. Some may be degrading in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. There are different types of chemicals which has got different half-lives. So all and for a particular disease or for a particular pest, there will be different number of pesticides available in the markets. Which one to spray? Which one to spray has to be determined by what is the time interval for harvest. When you are going to harvest your produce, if you are going to harvest very soon, you should not spray a chemical which is having very high half-life. So you should have a low half-life chemical as an option. But what happens in practically that when a farmer goes to a pesticide shop, the shopkeeper says this is the best medicine for your disease or pest, because it is the best for him, because that company gives him more commission. That's why it happens. So my point is, since this oil and oleoresin industry is highly export oriented, the quality of the produce has to be maintained in highly stringent manner. So we have to be doubly sure while procuring the raw material. Most of the companies are doing this, doing away with this by following a buyback arrangement sort of cultivation. They supply all the input, all the seed material, and they guarantee the purchasing back to their industry, and the price is assured, and like that they are doing it. So it's a contract farming business is carried out by all big companies. And another problem of this oil and oleoresin industry is high investment. To meet the standards of international industry, you need minimum capacity, minimum investment of 25 to 50 crores. So that much investment is needed to start and sustain the business. So that's the problem with the, otherwise, suppose if you have the use of this oleoresin within the country, domestic market, then there is no need. You can have a machine of 5 to 15 lakhs for extraction of oleoresin, no issue. That can be done. But at a small scale, that too with no quality control measures, if you take, there won't be takers. So the stringent quality measures are highly problematic with respect to this oil and oleoresin industry. And this is a high value, low volume business. You need to have a very little quantity, which will fetch you a maximum price. In other words, the benefit cost ratio is very high in this business. As high as the risk involved is the profit also in this business. Then, as I told, the scope of cottage industry as of now is very minimal. And if you see, Indian market, Indian consumer is still not ready to use the liquid spice blend as against raw spices or spice powders. Say our mindset still says anything in essence form, anything in extract form is attributed or linked to something, synthetic chemicals. The most important culprit to create this feeling in our mind is vanillin. Vanillin extract is not only taken from vanilla, it can be synthesized by a simple two-step reaction from eugenol. So that's why this synthetic vanillin became so popular. And now people used to think that whatever is, whenever we say essence, whenever we say extract, the first feeling comes is synthetic. But I will tell you, the possibility of making synthetic extract of any spice is next to impossible, not because it is not possible, but because it is not economical. Economical because it's not one compound, it's not two compound, it's a mixture of minimum majority of major compound. If you take, there will be 15 different compounds, and in a specified proportion. So if you want to prepare all this, synthesize all this synthetically and mix it, it is very tough. So the use of spice blend in liquid form is the future actually of the spice. We are predicting maybe by 2035, by 2040, even Indians won't be using powdered spices because powdered spices will be outdated, because it is, there are a lot of scope for adulteration in that. There are a lot of malpractices followed in that powder business. So to get away with that, we have to shift into liquid blends. Only thing is that Indian mindset of that synthetic essence problem has to be sorted out. And as I told, extracting color is a potential area for small scale business as a food additive. And having said all this, what is the future of spice? The usage of spice as we see today are basically in 5 different categories. One is for food as powders, and also in raw form, because ginger, cardamom, everything we just crush it and put it in our food. Or this dalchini, everything we use as such. So that culture of powder masala, that culture of raw masala will be replaced by liquid spice blend. That is for sure, because we are growing quality consciousness. Our quality consciousness is getting increased. There was a time we were worried about quantity of food. Now we are worried about our quality of the food, because we have enough quantity of food we are producing. We are surplus country now. So this quality consciousness will force us to shift to the liquid forms spices. Why? Because the probability or the chance of manipulation or malpractices or adulteration in liquid blend is very minimal. Because as I told, it is very tough to mimic the natural mix. Secondly, the natural mimics, so-called natural mimics, when you extract it from them, the flavor profile is totally different. We were so far mimic our visual appearance. Say for example, papaya seed with black pepper. There is a grass seed with cumin. Then likewise the similar looking things which, or metanyl yellow with turmeric powder, similar colored things, similar looking things, which is only visible through our eyes, naked eyes. But when it comes to our liquid extract, when that an extract of a adulterated material comes to our extract, totally the flavor profile will change totally. So you cannot manipulate like that. Say for example, you cannot take the extract of papaya seed to our black pepper seed. Likewise, so it has to be shifted to a liquid spice blend mode from a powder masala. That is the future of spice. One point I would like to say. Then right now, we have masala mix, rasam mix, different Hyderabadi biryani mix, but local cuisines, which is otherwise made, in a particular locality, that is not popular in other part of the country, basically because that local cuisine making has a typical style. Say for example, 30 years before, we cannot even think about eating pizza. Now pizza is very common. All Western food culture, everything, our food culture is there also. But even now, if you see the micro level local cuisines are still are confined to a locality only. So this customization of local cuisines are possible using liquid blends so that it can be popularized globally. So that is another chance or feature of spices. Now, encapsulated powders of spice essence for specific cuisines. So, as I told, the release rate of these oleoresins or the essence or flavor of these spices can be manipulated or managed or controlled by converting this essential oil into different forms like encapsulated powders. So these encapsulated powders are having another chance, another area of future spice business. Most importantly, in a country like India, where lot of indigenous medicines streams like Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, everything is well established and well proven. We have lot of scopes for developing nutraceuticals. Nutraceuticals refers to when your food itself becomes your medicine. So in that, spices can form a very good, very good part by virtue of its medicinal property. Because if you see the history, the spices were not known for their culinary application initially in the human history. It has been considered as a medicinal thing. Humans started using it as for medicine, but of late the culinary value of spices overtook the medicinal value. But now what we have realized is we are underutilizing the medicinal potential of spices. The best example is our during the corona period, we had a very severe pandemic of corona in 2019-20. At that time, most of the commodities exports was going into a declining trend. But spices export, if you see the graph, it took a very logarithmic jump, okay, during that phase, because outside world, the Western world realized the potential of spices in manipulating your immune system, or the modulatory power of immune system by spices was well recognized and well applied. Recognized was there, but well applied during that period. So that aspect of immunomodulatory aspect, it can be anti-inflammatory, it can be anti-cancerous. There are anti wound healing, hair falling. There are a lot of properties which can be used for our topical application or for our consumption. So that segment where India can be a major player, because right now we don't have a rule for nutraceutical that has been now formulated. It is the rough draft is in ready. Maybe in the next government comes, it may be passed in the parliament. Then there will be proper rules and regulation for making nutraceuticals. As of now, nutraceutical regulation is not very stringent. It can be anybody can make it, and since it is not considered as a pharmaceutical, there is no clinical trials required. But now I don't know what is in our new rule. It is coming nutraceuticals, but nonetheless, whatever it may be, nutraceutical segment is the future of spices. We will not eat spice or any of our food simply for to fulfill our stomach, but we will look for the calorific value, we will look for the immunity benefit, we will look for the disease curing ability of our food what we eat. That is the future. So that from that angle, spices has a bright future for developing nutraceuticals. And caviar, you can see in this picture, this is an example of caviar. That is another mode of delivery which can be tried, which we are actually trying right now in our our institute. Edible caviar for delivery of this oleoresins, because oleoresins, as I told, it is not easy to measure it. So for easy measuring, you can make uniform sized caviars, and you can say five granules of a caviar is enough for making one person's tea, one person's masala tea, one person's sambar, whatever it is. So you can standardize it if you make caviar of spice masala mixes. And another area is you can develop edible heat stable packing materials. Say edible heat stable packing materials or edible cutleries are nowadays getting very much popular, where your plate after eating can be eaten. There is no need to waste anything, there is no need to clean anything. So you yourself, it's the best example is the ice cream cone which you eat after taking your licking completely your ice cream. So that sort of concept is coming. So edible heat stable packaging material can be made out of using spices, because the problem is when you make edible packaging materials, the stability or the shelf life of such packing material is very less. To impart packaging material shelf life, spices can be added because it has got antibacterial property, it has got antimicrobial properties, it has got antioxidant properties. So from that angle, this can be a food, this can be a good candidate for making such things. And another area where we are working is ready to use spicy wraps. Here, in a simple example, if you imagine a situation where all your sambar vegetables, you dry it and wrap it with a wrap which is edible, and that is infused with sambar masala, and it comes as a bowl or it comes as a packet. Now you want to make sambar, simply you put that bowl into your boiling water and your masala will be ready. Or this can be used mainly for highly perishable commodities like fish, paneer, everything, so that their shelf life can be increased and it will be ready to use or ready to cook items will be available. So in different forms, spice will be used, or spice will be reaching to the customers in a highly different form what we are seeing today, which is the actually having a bright future for spices. Only thing is that India, being the lead producer, should take a lead in that. Otherwise, what a threatening trend what we are finding nowadays is China as a country has started repacking Indian spices. So China was nowhere in the picture as an importing country for spices from India, but after this corona, they realized the potential of these spices. They have started importing our spices, raw spices, and they are making value added product and they are reselling it to the world, including India. So that's actually a great loss to our country. So we are also trying our level best to make newer and newer application for spices, even in our personal care products, cosmetics, and nutraceuticals, and this agriculture for pest management, everything. Now trials are being conducted. So hopefully in the near future, such products will be out in our market. So I stop here. I thank you once again for your patient hearing. If you have any doubt with respect to the topic covered, I am happy to share my detailed knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Participants, if you have any question, you can write in a chat box or raise your hand. I can unmute you. Sir is here to clarify your doubts.
Madam, may I know these participants are from which background?
Sir, all are professors.
No, your sound is not audible. All are?
Can I able to hear?
Hello?
Hello, sir. Can you able to hear me?
No, no, very, very feeble voice.
And now?
No, when you started, there was a good volume, but now it is not there. Volume is very less.
So now you can able to hear me.
Yeah, yeah.
So actually, they are from food technology background, and some of them are on a higher post and professors also,
Okay.
and some are the SPM. Participants, if you have any question, you can write in the chat box. Sorry to clarify your doubt. So one question is there. What could be the future of spices of essential oil market in India in terms of applications?
Yeah. If you see essential oil of spices, right now, essential oil of clove has got a very good market in domestic market. Other than that, none of the essential oil except I would say dry leaf oil of turmeric that also finds application. Other than that, none of the oils are being highly utilized within the India. But future is all oils. Say, I forgot to tell you, in our institute we have developed a technology where you can make. We have made a sambar essence, rasam essence, Hyderabadi biryani essence by mixing different combinations of this, oleoresins. Maybe by 2026, after our storage trial, it will be out in the market. So once it comes, it will be started, it will be available in our supermarket also. That means it will be produced locally, not by big companies, small companies. In such cases, both oleoresin and essential oil industry can be started as a cottage industry, very small scale industry by spending 5 to 15 lakhs. So then there is a tremendous scope. But as of now, the utility of this essential oil goes to, especially in case of clove, it goes to dental care, it goes to toothpaste, it goes to some aromatherapy, and this dry leaf oil of our turmeric goes to this pesticide making business largely, and also to admix with real essential oil of turmeric. That's also true. And but we have devised a methodology to find if there is a mixture of turmeric leaf oil with turmeric rhizome oil that can be found out very easily by using its optical properties. That's not an issue. So likewise, future is very bright, but we may have to wait for 5 more years, I would say. Then only our Indian market will be, ready to accept this liquid form of the spices, in both be it resin or oil, both.
Thank you, sir. So one more question. Kindly brief the scope of essential oils processing at micro level of for small processors.
Yeah, as I told, this was the same I was telling. A small processing unit for essential oil is highly viable even today. But the problem is you should not stick to only spices. Say there are a lot of other oils which are widely used in domestic market like eucalyptus oil, citronella oil, then what is that? Uh, one more aromatic compound. And there are a lot of floral oils which are used for, making our soap industry, the perfume industry, and also for our, floor cleaning. For such things, all these are used. So if you are starting a micro level small essential oil extraction industry, you should not depend only on spices. That's my otherwise big scope. And as I told, the water for condensation, the cold water for condensation, if it is available naturally, it will be highly viable. It will be economically viable. Otherwise, if you use electricity to make the water cool, then the viability will be at question because the energy efficiency will be very less. So that is the major criteria while you are developing a microprocessing unit for essential oil. You have to start in such a location that where natural stream cold water is available year round. So then your business will be pakka successful, no doubt. And no doubt, even I say, before you start in any business, ensure the market channel where you are going to sell, who is your potential customer. Without that, no business will sustain. So that is the major failure. By saying that this is having high potential by me, you should not start. You should, wherever you are going to start, wherever you are going to establish, there, what is the marketing channel? Who are all our customers? Through what is the marketing channel which is available and which can be made possible? That research has to be done first. Then only you can start this business.